Well, welcome everyone to episode 45. Name of this episode, it was all a matter of time. That sort of tells you the theme for this week, episode 45. I'm only 1 minute late, or maybe 1.5, so that's a 2-shot penalty to me. So we've got some big rules scenarios this week. Bryson DeChambeau's ball was determined to have been picked up after 3 minutes. Nelly Corder's ball determined to have been picked up under 10 seconds. So let's get into it. I think this is where I should have some music. Anyway, hey all, Blakey here from GolfRules Questions. Make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube, and I now have a join function as well, which you can sign up for to show me some support. I appreciate all the support as well as the emails, messages and questions. I mean, this whole brand is based on the community. If no one's interested in the rules of golf, then I wouldn't have the need to do a podcast or a live stream on YouTube. And some other really good news, I also have some GRQ merchandise finally. So it's been a while in the making. Roscoe, if you've been listening to Roscoe and I the last year, it has been over a year now, we have been talking about doing some merchandise. Well, it's finally here, and the link is in the description for YouTube, and for the podcast listeners, I'll put it into the description, the show notes. It's good quality, it's print on demand, so it makes it a lot easier. It's good quality, and I really hope you get onto the link and check it out. The links are on Facebook and Instagram as well. There are polos, hoodies, caps, beanies, and more. Different designs. Get on there and check it out and see what you think. Now, firstly, GRQOTW for week 44. Remember, if you listened last week, only 6% of people have gotten this one right on my YouTube community rules of golf question. Why is that? Well, they didn't see the wording in the question. They were reading it and they didn't see the wording. And a lot of these people are probably beginner golfers and not. It's difficult when you're doing a rules test. I always say it's a lot easier to learn the rules out on the golf course because you're there. You have the green there, the bunker, you know where the ball is, who's just sort of done something, touched it, whatever. When you're taking a rules quiz, exam, test, whatever you want to call it, you're reading the question and you've got to, stimulate your mind as to what situation you're currently in. So only 6% people got it. I'm hoping that a lot more got it that listened to the podcast and the live stream. GRQOTW 44, in stroke play at Wombat Hills Golf Club. Stuart plays a second shot on the par 4 fifth hole from the fairway and pulls it into the trees left of the green. He and his group spend 3 minutes searching for his ball, but cannot find it. He returns to where he played his previous stroke from, places a ball as close to that spot as possible, and plays his next shot onto the green. He has 2 putts to hole out. Hopefully you heard that, and you also heard the where Stuart would incur a penalty, or penalties. What is Stuart's score for the 5th hole? The answer is 8. So let's break that down. Stuart hit his tee shot, that is 1. He couldn't find his he hit his second from the fairway, that is 2. He couldn't find his second, so had to go back to where he played his stroke from in the fairway and drop a ball for a penalty of 1. That is 3. He placed it. What were you doing, Stuart? He placed it instead of dropping it, so effectively has breached rule 14.3b3 and incurs a general penalty. We are now up to 5. General penalty is 2 shots in stroke play, loss a hole in match play. Playing from a wrong place in match play, we lost a hole. So it's important to know when you're supposed to replace the ball and when you are supposed to drop the ball. When proceeding under a lost ball scenario, which this was, Rule 14.6 tells us how we put a new ball into play depending on where we last played from. So within the teeing area, you can place on the ground or on a tee. In the general area, penalty area or bunker, you drop the ball. So general area includes fairway and rough. And on the putting green, you must place it at the last spot you played from. Whilst a lost ball after a putt is very rare, they have happened, but most commonly into a penalty area, which isn't 18.2. It would be 17.1 D1. But anyway, the same. It's the same procedure. You place it. We did actually see it at the Masters this year. From memory, it was Burnt Weisberger. That's probably an over. Okay, so talking about dropping or replacing, we now turn our attention to Bryson's scenario at the Tour Championship, which was very interesting. So let's set the scene. He hit his ball well left of the 18th hole during round 3, even left of the 9th hole. 10th hole, even left of the 10th hole. Maybe it was near the 9th hole. Even left of the 10th hole, which I thought was about 70 yards, but someone on YouTube wanted to correct me and tell me that it was more like 200 yards. That's fine. 270, 200, up to you. He wasn't able to find it within the 3-minute search time, but after this had elapsed, the committee were able to get a message out to him through their referee on hand that video coverage had picked up that a spectator had moved the ball, hence why it couldn't be found. Now, there was definitely some conjecture as to whether his ball was lost as per Rule 18.2, but the committee were happy with their decision that they knew before the 3-minute was up that someone had picked up the ball. They were virtually certain that someone had picked up the ball before the 3 minutes, and so they applied the exception to Rule 18.2b and allowed Bryson to replace a ball on the estimated spot where it had been moved from for no penalty under Rule 9.6. So 9.6 is ball at rest moved by an outside influence. Bryson went on to hit the green in 2, one of only a handful of people who have done that all week, and 2-putted the 18th for a birdie. I mean, it was playing down the 10th was what he was trying to do. Left him a fantastic angle into that green and into that flag. So, potentially in the future, the PGA Tour might look at an internal out of bounds, which I absolutely love, but not many other people are with me. But the PGA Tour might think about it. But the conjecture about the ruling applied was whether, because Bryson didn't know after 3 minutes that his ball, how his ball was lost. He just knew that it was lost. But the committee did know before the 3 minutes, and so they were happy to, as I said, apply the exception to Rule 18.2b. Thinking about it personally, look, it doesn't go with how the rules of golf read specifically. But in saying that, I actually, don't mind the ruling. I know that sounds bad, but when someone, a spectator picks up a player's ball, you hate to see a lost ball because of that. Now, you think about it, okay, well, that's unfair because the pros, they have so much more advantage that, there's cameras everywhere. But that goes both ways. They also have spectators that pick up balls. I mean, how many people out there have spectators picking up balls? And also they have cameras that shine a light on, you touching grounding a club in a bunker, i.e. Abraham Answer at the Masters, or John Rahm when his ball moved on the 17th hole just before he played. He caused it to move just before he played. So, it goes both ways. There's advantages to having cameras, and there's also disadvantages. Now, if you thought that was a doozy, for those who watched the Solheim Cup, that threw up a huge call in a very close, hard-fought contest. So the Solheim Cup seems to be very well known for some real rules doozies, some real rules. What's Roscoe's word? Imbroglios. Last time it was Suzanne Pedersen and Alison Lee. When Suzanne said, "I never gave you that putt, so you've picked up the ball, you never hold out, you lost the hole effectively," and that resulted in tears. 20 years ago or a few 15 years ago, whatever, there was the shot that was chipped in, but it was played out of order, so the opponent asked them to replay the stroke. That was a huge call. So, it's not really just the Solheim Cup, it's match play in general. If you're always hitting it down the fairway and on the green, you think that there's not going to be too much going on, but this is where all those little nitpicky things, and especially when there's so much pride and money, or maybe not money, but so much pride and so much competition for winning, that this kind of stuff can certainly happen. And so on Saturday afternoon during the 4-ball competition, Nelly Korda attempted an eagle putt which sat on the edge of the hole. The referee thought it was overhanging, and as Madeline Sagstrom picked it up before the permitted time that Nelly was entitled to wait and see if her ball would fall in, Nelly was given the putter's hold, her eagle counted, and the US won the hole. So let's unpack this. Rule 13.3 is very clear about what the player is entitled to when their ball is overhanging the hole, even in match play. They are permitted the reasonable time it takes to get to the hole, including Nelly falling to her knees and then getting back up and starting her journey, as long as it was reasonable. If she'd gone off and had a drink of water or wiped her putter, that wouldn't have been reasonable. And then after the reasonable time of getting to the hole, she's allowed 10 seconds, or the player is allowed 10 seconds to see if the ball will fall. Sagstrom took away this right by conceding the putt and picking up her opponent's ball and throwing it to her. So in that instance, there is no penalty applied, but the ball is considered hold because it was moved by the opponent before the entitled time. And as that was the lowest score on the hole, the eagle, the US won the hole. You do wonder what was going through Madeline's mind, why she wanted to pick it up so quickly. I'm not saying there's anything untoward, but with something so close, and she was probably right in saying that the ball was never going to fall in. That's okay. We're not saying that you thought it was. We're not saying that the ball was going to fall in. It's all about whether it's overhanging, and in that case, Nelly is permitted or entitled to her rights of waiting to see if the ball will fall in. So, it's so clear cut. It was overhanging, and this is probably the biggest question: was it overhanging? If it wasn't overhanging, then there was no penalty. No penalty should have been applied, or not a penalty. The ball was conceded for a birdie rather than an eagle. But if it was overhanging, then it's an eagle. The TV cameras were very inconclusive, but the last sort of shot, and I do have this on my YouTube, so you can go and check it out. The last sort of shot does very reasonably look like the ball is overhanging the hole. I'm led to believe that the TV referee was John Paramore, ex-European Tour referee. He let the referee, the allocated referee, Missy Jones, know of his thoughts, and so the ruling stood as applied, that Nelly hold out for eagle. The question was asked, well, did Nelly and Team USA have to make a claim? Well, no, they didn't, but that wouldn't have mattered. So because the referee was an allocated or assigned referee, it is up to the referee to decide what the correct outcome is. Effectively like a soccer referee, football referee, NFL referee. You know, they also have cameras that they can check and make a decision upon. This is different than when it is a roving referee in match play. Roving referees should not get involved unless they have been asked by one of the players, or they see a situation under rules or rule 1.2, 1.3, 5.3, 5.6a and 5.6b. So the referee had to rule as it was seen or reported to her. If she had missed it, then that's good, bad fortune for someone if she's missed it. But in this case, she didn't miss it. The way the coverage sort of, the way it sounded on the coverage, I reckon, or it sounded like Nelly sort of griped towards her partner, and then possibly the referees heard this, or they've looked at the referee and the referees sort of had an understanding and gone up to the Europeans and said, look, sorry, it's an eagle for the USA. And then they argued their case that it wasn't going to fall in and that possibly it wasn't overhanging, and so Missy said, I'll check with the TV, and the ruling came back that it was going to be the same. I've got a comment here from Steve. Hey Steve, you think the official made a mistake in asking the players if the ball was overhanging, as this was after she had made the call. She should have asked the question before making the decision. I'd agree with you. Yep, I definitely agree with you on that. But you know, that was the only mistake she made. If she had found out from the TV that it wasn't overhanging, then she could have rescinded that ruling, and it would have just been conceded as a birdie. Then it's an interesting case because they were heading towards the next tee. Now she made the call when they were heading towards the next tee, so maybe one of the Europeans had already holed out for birdie and they thought they had a half. Someone please comment and tell me what actually occurred after all that. But in that case, she could have just changed it and said, okay, it was a half, I got that wrong. And as embarrassing as that would have been for the referee, that would have been the right call, and that's what we're there to do. We're just there to make the right call. But yeah, probably should have checked with the TV ref first, and maybe she did. Maybe she did. Maybe the TV ref saw it and actually whispered in her ear, and then, you know, the Europeans have struck up an argument. She said, okay, I'll just check again, but yeah, I'll for what it was, the correct ruling was come to in my mind, because I thought it was overhanging the hole, and that's all that matters, is whether it was overhanging the hole. You might think it was not, and you're certainly entitled to your opinion. So that was a fair lot. I mean, 13.3 is one of my favourite, just because it sort of comes up a lot, and it's also one of the, I'd say, one of the more laxed ones certainly on the PGA Tour, where they sort of allow the player to wait near where they putted for a bit longer than what I would personally give them. I would think that it was reasonable to maybe put your hands up in the air and then start, and then grab your putter or whatever and then start walking. But, it is what it is. We did see them hand out a penalty earlier in the year when someone waited 46 seconds. But yeah, that was pretty blatant. Right, that was a lot. So that was two really good situations for this week. I certainly learnt from that 18.2b and 9.6 about the committee having the virtual certainty before the 3 minutes. Please remember to subscribe and even join my YouTube channel. Every little bit of support is appreciated. The bogey membership is $2 a month, very small. Then it goes all the way up to $25 a month. So one coffee a month, or even half a coffee a month, all the way up to a coffee a week, basically. Would love the support, or get yourself some GRQ merch, whether it's the Ruin Coup, which I love that logo, or the podcast green logo, or just the Roo by itself. Please jump on board. The link is in the description. Now, everybody's favorite segment, the GRQOTW 45, before we actually ask for some questions from the current viewers. So the question for this week is, Fraser has interference with the branches of a tree that are outside of a ground under repair area. This ground under repair area is defined by a white line. The tree itself is rooted in the ground under repair area, but the branches overhang outside the GUR and Fraser's swing is hitting them. None of the branches that interfere with his swing are inside the GUR area, but the tree is rooted inside the GUR area. Is Fraser entitled to free relief? Right. Hopefully you've got the GRQ OTW 45. Time for some questions. Hello, Adrian. Also agreeing with Steve. Love that. Stuart. My good friend Stuart McPhee, who helps me out does a fantastic job with the YouTube videos. Sagstrom had the best view of anyone, even better than 2D cameras. She said it wasn't overhanging. Does the ruling imply she was lying? Yes. Yep. The referee makes their ruling. You know, she's taken into account, or the referee, whoever it is, takes into account all the information, and you know, it happened so quickly. Madeline, we're not saying that she was cheating or lying or anything like that, but they went to the TV coverage, and the TV referee believed that it was overhanging. So the ruling is that Madeline breached Rule 13.3, and there's no penalty, but the ball was considered hold. She was conceding the next putt for a birdie. Right, any other questions this week? That was a lot to cover so far. I do have a few questions, including one from Steve, I believe. I'm not going to cover it this week just because we're already gone through a fair bit. But does anyone online have any questions you'd like to ask? Okay, with that in mind, I really appreciate everyone turning up. Thank you, everyone. Remember to buy some merch and sign up. And also remember, without rules, there is chaos. Have a good night in Australia, or a good day in the rest of the world.